Hi friends! In my last video where I talked about DBT, I mentioned a book that I like. And I decided to do my 5-star favorites review right now. This book is the Dialectical Behavioral Therapy Skills Workbook, which is DBT. And in the book, you have your 5 important skills. So you've got your distress tolerance, your mindfulness, your emotion regulation, and your interpersonal effectiveness. There's several chapters on each of these. And I'm just going to kind of flip through the book and show you some of the things that are in there. And the first one is distress tolerance. We got a big list of different activities, which are good distractions, because if you remember, I mentioned distress tolerance. One of the things is distractions. Then another one that I find interesting is distract yourself by counting, because you're not always used to counting by 7s, so sometimes you really have to think about it. And if you're thinking about that, you're not thinking about what's stressing you out in the future. So that's one of the good things about distractions, is you're not in your head on that never-ending hamster wheel. Another thing that's handy is a list of some helpful coping thoughts. And I don't know if you can see them very well, so I'll just read a couple of them for you. One of them is, I can be anxious and still deal with the situation. I'm strong enough to handle what's happening to me right now. And this is an opportunity for me to learn how to cope with my fears. And there's a whole list of a bunch of these that are really helpful, I think. And then another thing in here is assessing the feeling threat balance. So as you can see in this book, some of it is descriptions, explaining things, how things work, and then there's also some things where you fill them out. There's some questionnaires, some things like this where it's creating new coping strategies, where it gives you an example and then you create your own. As you can see, it's a real workbook where it gives you lots of things to talk about. And oops, things sticking up. Things to talk about, and then also things for you to work on. And this page that I just showed you, it says use cold temperatures to relax. And I actually find this to be really helpful when I'm really anxious, especially if, say, you're having a panic attack. What you do is you just take some cold water, and really cold water, and you just throw it on your face. And your body gets confused about that sensation of the cold water. So it's so focused on the cold water, it kind of almost shocks you into not being quite as panicked. I don't completely understand the science of how it works, but I know for me, sometimes it works, so maybe it'll work for you. You can try it. And if it doesn't, don't do it. But if it does, that's awesome. Another one here is it gives you instructions for when you're doing mindfulness, and it says, what does the surface of the object look like? Is it shiny or dull? Does it look smooth or rough? So it gives you examples of questions to ask yourself of how to be in the present moment, which I think is great. And I don't know if you remember me mentioning wise mind, but here it talks about wise mind. And the next one I got is a negative judgment record, because some of us have negative judgments, unfortunately. And if you don't know what your negative judgments are, or when they're happening, or how often they're happening, it's really hard to do anything about them. So that's why you want to track them. And another one here we got is assertiveness scripts, which is an interpersonal effectiveness. And this is for if you're not necessarily the most assertive person. It gives you some examples of what to say. And then here also, it gives you how to negotiate and communication effectiveness checklist, which is some more of those interpersonal effectiveness. And the last thing in here is the DBT Diary, which goes through and takes everything you learned and puts it all together. So that's just a summary. There's a lot more in this book, but I didn't want to have an insanely long video. But if you're interested, you can find this book on Amazon. Actually, what I'll do is I'll put the link to this book for Amazon in the comments. And so if you want to go and get it, you can do that. And if you don't want to, totally fine too. I just wanted to give you another resource of something I like, and I lost where my stars went. Otherwise, I would show you the 5 stars. But I do really like this, and I think it's a great tool. So I just want to say, be kind always. You never know what somebody's going through, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you very much.